How's it going, y'all? Right now I'm standing in Mears Park, and today we are doing a virtual tour of downtown St. Paul. Stick around. How's it going, y'all? My name is Jesse Lynch, and this YouTube channel is devoted to two things, one of which is teaching people the ins and outs of everything you need to know about buying, selling, investing in real estate. The second of which is showing off this amazing place that I live, the Twin Cities of Minnesota. So if either of those things appeal to you, are up your alley, do us both a favor, subscribe to this channel, click the little bell to get notified. I do at least one video. I try to do two, but I will say that these neighborhood tours take quite a bit longer to edit, and so sometimes it's only one, but I do my best to put out two, and I assure you, there are no better videos anywhere on the internet, so subscribe. Downtown St. Paul is home to many of the biggest attractions in all of St. Paul, the capital of St. Paul for one, and the whole lawn associated with that. The XL Energy Center, the Children's Museum, the Science Museum, the Palace Theater. Really, it is the center of all of the things that are happening in downtown St. Paul, or in St. Paul in general. Behind me back here is the train depot. And you might have heard of the Empire Builder train line. It comes through St. Paul. I believe it starts in Chicago and goes all the way over to Seattle. I've never been on it, but I really want to. It looks like a very cool train ride. And just right here is the Farmers Market of St. Paul. It's a really great farmers market, actually. And this whole area has really just come such a long way. Right behind me, this is a light rail sort of depot. And the last stop in the Green Line light rail station is right here in Lower Town as well. This area really has come a very long way in regards to things that are available to you if you live here. My band actually used to rehearse in Lower Town at 4th and Selby, and there's sort of this dingy venue that we used to play called Station 4, and I feel like with how much this neighborhood has changed, you'd never be able to get away with those things. In fact, basically, we got booted out of our rehearsal space because the neighborhood got too nice. Okay, right now I'm in front of the Union Depot in Lower Town. Lower Town, I would say, is St. Paul's equivalent to North Loop, with probably the largest collection of basically converted warehouses or converted buildings from forever ago that are since been turned into very cool apartments, commercial spaces, etc. Downtown St. Paul is considerably smaller than downtown Minneapolis. It's somewhere around 1/3 the size at about a square mile. Downtown Minneapolis is about 3 square miles. So it's definitely a lot smaller, more quaint, and if you've watched a bunch of my other videos, you might very well know that St. Paul is considerably slower moving than the likes of Minneapolis. One of St. Paul's unofficial mottos is keep St. Paul boring, and as much as some people maybe try to fight that, it definitely is still a lot slower paced than the likes of downtown Minneapolis. Downtown St. Paul also extremely weirdly shaped. I usually like to say the geographic boundaries of a neighborhood, but it is a really weird one. Basically, more or less to the south is the river, to the north is University Avenue, and then kind of highways sort of dictate what is technically considered downtown or not, but it's kind of chaotic. Right now I am on the northernmost edge of the Lower Town neighborhood in downtown St. Paul, which is, I would say without a doubt, the most sought after, most trendy, the most livable area really in downtown St. Paul. Paul. There's sort of a downtown, like main commercial district and over by the Capitol, but there's not as much in the way of places to live, condos, apartments, townhouses, maybe there's a couple around here. Again, very much like downtown Minneapolis, very little in the way of single family houses down here, like you might expect from a pretty major metropolitan area downtown. All right, thank you for being along for the ride. Let's jump into this thing, shall we? Behind me is CHS Field, which is the Minnesota Twins minor league team or farm team, and the St. Paul Saints are at least partially owned by Bill Murray. Who doesn't like Bill Murray? All right, so what are the pros and cons of downtown St. Paul? Definitely pros are that it's central, right? Again, very much like downtown Minneapolis, is that it's center to everything. Several of the largest employers in the state of Minnesota are also in downtown St. Paul as well. Ecolab, there's Securian Financial, there's a Wells Fargo, to name a few. But one of my absolute favorite things about downtown Minneapolis is the character of the buildings. I think that downtown Minneapolis has some of my favorite character of any of the buildings in Minnesota. I would say that to some degree it feels more like a borough of New York City as opposed to just another version of Minneapolis. St. Paul is the older city, so it was more established early on. Minneapolis obviously since then has grown to be quite a bit bigger, much higher population, and a big reason for that was once they crossed the Mississippi River, they harnessed the power of St. Anthony Falls, and so Minneapolis could use the power of the falls, and ultimately power, I guess, led to growth. Another benefit of downtown St. Paul, and I'm going to compare it to downtown Minneapolis, is that I believe that for the money, you get more space for your dollar. I think that's true in general of St. Paul to Minneapolis, but I think it's definitely pretty apparent in the downtown St. Paul versus the downtown Minneapolis. And there are a lot of great restaurants and bars, but definitely fewer than downtown Minneapolis. The Green Line light rail goes right through downtown. You can actually see it right here. That's the Green Line, and it goes from downtown Minneapolis to downtown St. Paul. Super convenient, and it ends right in Lower Town. It's definitely loud because it's a downtown area, but it's not as loud as downtown Minneapolis. I would say that the noise and the busyness and the hustle and bustle ends quite a bit earlier in downtown St. Paul versus downtown Minneapolis. But one thing to note as a potential con, I would say, is that downtown St. Paul is not quite as well maintained as downtown Minneapolis. Downtown Minneapolis has a bit of a shimmer to it. It's very, very nicely kept and very clean and typically pretty tidy. I think, and maybe this is just because it's an older city, but downtown St. Paul, it has a little bit more of a dinge to it, which honestly, I kind of enjoy. I think it's cool. I think it's charming. I think it has a little more of this kind of classic city vibe, but you know, it's at a cost. There's a little more trash on the ground. The buildings maybe are a little less well kept, and in general, the city design isn't quite as good as you would find in downtown Minneapolis. Let's go for a ride, shall we? Now I am in Rice Park in front of the Landmark Center and also behind the James J. Hill Library, which is an absolutely beautiful place if you ever have the chance to go there. I thought of a couple more cons of the downtown St. Paul area, but I think the reason that I forgot to say them is because they're very much the same cons as downtown Minneapolis, which I also have a video out of. But you know, for one, parking. You're gonna have to pay for parking. I don't really know a single downtown area where that isn't true, but for sure, downtown St. Paul, overwhelmingly you're gonna have to pay for parking during business hours and that kind of thing. Another potential con is that it gets sleepy pretty early here. Not as bad as it used to. It used to be basically impossible to find anywhere to eat like after 5 p.m. because it was sort of like a financial district, like just strictly a business district. But that's not the case anymore. It's come a long way. There are, you know, brew houses and restaurants and that kind of thing. But I would definitely say that St. Paul goes to bed a little bit earlier than the likes of downtown Minneapolis. I would say that St. Paul is not quite as bike friendly as Minneapolis. Certainly you can get around on bike here, but they definitely do not cater to cyclists the same way that Minneapolis does. I think they're working on it. I feel like they're trying to get there, but they're just not quite there yet. Another con of the area, I would say, is that the streets are just, they're made so strangely. The organization of the streets in downtown St. Paul is so wacky. I literally can't think of why they did what they did, but hey, nonetheless, here we are. James J. Hill Library is right there. St. Paul Hotel is right there. I shot a wedding at James J. Hill Library. It was a gorgeous wedding, and they were staying in the St. Paul Hotel. Super cool, historical, beautiful architecture. I have literally nothing but good things to say about those places. All right, if you're thinking about moving here and now you've watched both my downtown Minneapolis and downtown St. Paul videos, I would love to hear your thoughts. I would love to hear how you think of the two, how they seem to differ to you, and hopefully I did a good enough job in these videos to get those across to you. And if you are considering a move here, do us both a favor, hit me up. I promise I will take the best care of you, and we will have a lot of fun looking around this amazing place, enjoying the Twin Cities. And I can't wait to meet you, can't wait to hang out with you, can't wait to show you this place. And until then, I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.